Alright, so we're going to be changing some trip edge springs. This one's broken right up at the top. I have the tool to compress those springs to get the pin out, because the new ones, they come with a pin in them like that, compressed, so you can slip them in, and then you gotta get that pin out to get them out. Or not to get them out, but you gotta get the pin out to let them open up. So you don't need the tool. I would recommend the tool because it makes it safer and easier. It's not necessary. I've done it without the tool, but you do run the risk of getting hurt. So if you get hurt, I don't accept responsibility for that. So yep, so we'll pull this out first. The small bolt, or the nut, is, what was it, 11/16, and the head of the bolt is 3/4. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the bolt out. Being that these are broken, the strain is already taken off of them, so there isn't a lot of pressure on them. The correct way to do it would be to take this tool, set it on top, pull this up, and then put the pins that they give you into the little hole here, so we can keep it down, and then you can remove it. As I take them off, this usually will get stopped up at this rivet here, but don't trust that, because it could shoot off and then you got a projectile coming at you and you can get hurt. So my advice would be to take it off this way, compress the spring, put the pin in, and then release it that way. So it's up to you on which method you choose to do, but this is how I'm going to do it. So here we go. Like I said, being that the spring's already broken, there's a lot of tension taken off. So in this scenario, I'm not too worried about it flying apart. It doesn't mean every scenario is this way. Make sure you don't put your fingers or anything in there, because you don't know if it's going to shoot off or anything. Now, if some of them, if the spring here wasn't broken like that, it would obviously add more force than it did. So, I mean, it can come shooting right out of there. So, one way that I put these in was slide it in here, put the bolt in, and then I pried on this underneath the top plate here. If you get the pry bar on both sides and get it down, you can knock the pin out, but it's pretty dangerous. You don't want to get your fingers in there because it can shoot off if you get it out and you slip, because it does like to slip around. It's not very secure, but it will get them out. Like I said, I don't recommend doing it that way. I'm going to do it with this tool because it is far easier. So the instructions say to bolt it in and then compress this, but the way I found worked better, because to do it that way, you're going to end up compressing all of these springs to get this pin up high enough to get it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compress just this spring, not put the bolt in, and then I'm going to get the pin out, and then I'm going to lower this down so I can get the bolt into the bottom. So basically I'm only compressing the one spring and I'm not compressing all the springs on the moldboard. Now there's a hole in the top of this spring here. There's a hole on top of that rod that goes through the spring that you put this bolt through. Put the nut on the other side. Then you will tighten this and you'll pull it up. So there's the pin. See how it pulls it up through the hole there? And you just reach in, pull it out. You probably want to use needle nose pliers or something so don't stick your fingers in there. One thing I will say is usually these factory top plates from Fisher have this groove in them so you can use this tool. This is an aftermarket top plate which does not have the groove in it. These are like buyer's ones or something, but this actually didn't even have this notch in here to get the rivet through. I had to grind those in there or drill it out. I think I used a drill and drilled it out bigger so I could get the rivet through. So something like this, you're not going to be able to use this tool because you need to get it up high enough to get that pin through. So keep in mind that you might have an issue depending on the type of top plate you have. But if you have this groove or the square, not square, but the the plus sign there, the cross, the holes in the cross section there, then you'll be able to use this tool. But if you don't, you might have trouble. So now that it's up and I got the pin out, I'm just going to lower it down so I'm in the holes and put my bolt back in. You might want to get a new nut or maybe a new bolt as well because they're it's a locking nut. So because it's a locking nut, once you put it on once, it doesn't have the same locking force. I'm just going to keep an eye on it and make sure it doesn't loosen up. So keep that in mind. You might want to get a new nut too. that is all that's involved in changing your springs on your trip edge. Hope that can help somebody. If not, let me know what I did wrong, and I thank you for watching. So here's the part number for that tool. And it is a spring replacement tool, they say. Here's a parts list. It's pretty simple. They gave me an extra bolt here and an extra nut for it, probably in case it wears out. Yep. So here's a diagram of how they want it done. I'll read you off the instructions. It says, number 1, park the vehicle on a smooth, level, hard surface such as concrete. Lower the blade to the ground and turn the control off. Disconnect the snowplow from the vehicle or turn the vehicle ignition to off position and remove the key. Before using the spring replacement tool, apply a light coating of multi-purpose grease to the threaded end of the spade bolt. Number 3, place the tool on the top anchor above the spring, making sure the upper end of the spring bar is between the clevis tabs of the spring replacement tool. Insert the 1/2 inch by 2 inch cap screw through the lower hole in the clevis tab, through the hole in the spring bar, and the lower hole in the clevis tab. Install a 1/2 inch nut and hand tighten. 4 is use hand tools to tighten the 5/8 nut until the spring bar is raised enough to access the pinhole. Insert a 1/4 inch by 1 1/4 inch pin through the hole, centering the pin from side to side. So this is to remove it, and you can see there's the pin that they want you to put in, and there's the hole on the side of the spring bar. So basically they want you to pull the spring up and then put the pin in to release the tension on it for the removal process of the damaged spring, or if you got to take a regular spring out. But this is for the removal process of the old spring. Let's see. Loosen the 5/8 nut to lower the spring bar. Remove the spring tool assembly by removing the 1/2 inch cap screw inserted through the spring bar in step 3. Number 6. Detach the spring from the blade by removing the shoulder bolt and lock nut at the bottom of the spring bar. Retain the fasteners. Number 7. Insert the replacement spring with spring bar up through the top anchor on the blade. Install the bottom of the spring bar to the anchor on the trip edge using the retained shoulder bolt and lock nut tightened to 50 foot-pounds. Number 8 is repeat step 3, which is place the tool on the top anchor above the spring, making sure the upper end of the spring bar is between the clevis tabs of the spring replacement tool. Insert the 1/2 inch by 2 inch cap screw through the lower hole in the clevis tab, through the hole in the spring bar, and the lower hole in the clevis tab. Install 1/2 inch nut and hand tighten. Number 9, use hand tools to tighten 5/8 nut until the spring bar is raised enough to access the pin that was inserted in step 4. Remove pin. Repeat step 5, which is loosen the 5/8 nut to lower the spring bar. Remove the spring tool assembly by removing the 1/2 inch cap screw inserted through the spring bar in step 3. So there's a diagram on how to use it. Being that these are the instructions that come with the tool, I would recommend that these be the instructions that you follow. Or you can do what you would like to do and be safe. So, I mean, let's keep in mind that there is pressure under these things and they can hurt you if they go flying or something. So, that's the proper way to take it off. And, yeah. I mean, the only thing that I thought would be easier, which is how I showed you how I didn't anchor the bottom bolt. I put the spring in and then I raised the spring itself, because if you bolt it in there to get that high enough to take that pin out, you're going to be compressing all the springs along the moldboard to lift this one up. So that's why I put the spring tool in place, and then I pulled it up, and then I removed that pin, and I lowered it down to put that lower bolt on. But I guess there's a few different ways you can do it. So, you know, use your best judgment, and yeah, just try not to hurt himself. So, hope that can help somebody. Thank you.